An IDE written in Rust hits 1.0. TanStack is the latest in compromised NPM packages. And AI layoffs continue. We'll discuss whether you should be worried. It's front-end fire. Let's get right into it. I'm your host for this week, Jack Harrington, and with me are my good friends, Paige Niederinghouse.
Hey, everybody.
And TJ Van Tol.
Hey, everyone.
All right. So much good stuff this week. Yeah, let's get into it.
Let's do it.
So we have a Rust-based IDE news here.
We do. We have a non-VS Code forked IDE to talk about.
Crazy.
So the IDE is actually Zed. Have either one of you ever heard of it, used it, tried it?
I have played with Zed. Back in the early MCP days, it was one of the few IDEs that handled MCP back in the day, and I would have had to have written Rust in order to connect to an MCP server, so that was about the last that I worked on Zed.
Yeah, and I've heard the name because I think it's like the Atom team or something like that behind it, but I've never used it.
Yeah, so Zed is by the makers of Atom, and it's been around for 5 years, actually, which is a lot longer than I thought.
That. Yeah.
But yes, after 5 years and 1,000 commits, Zed has hit 1.0. So the idea behind it, as opposed to all the VS Code forks and kind of the AI direction that every other editor has gone today, is that they were focused a lot on performance and collaboration in particular. So they built their own editor, and its architecture is closer to a video game architecture than a web platform. They basically decided that the way that things were being built with Electron and things just limited them in a way that they didn't want. So they rebuilt the entire thing. It is built in Rust, as we said, so it's super fast just in that regard. And they also built an in-house UI called GPUI that makes editing across buffers extremely fast. So they pretty much built this thing from the ground up with no external additions.
That's really impressive,
which is interesting.
Actually.
Yeah, it's very impressive.
And pre-agentically, because 5 years ago we weren't doing the agent thing.
No, but that's I think that's what helped push this to V1.0 is that it supports running multiple agents in parallel without choking. So they are definitely taking an AI first approach now, and it integrates with agents via their agent client protocol. So if you like Claude Code, if you like Codex, if you want Cursor, if you want XYZ, they've pretty much made it sounds like a universal agent connection,
Nice.
which is great. And one thing that was really interesting to me as I was reading through their notes is that they built a CRDT-based sync engine. And I did not bother to look up what that stands for.
I have no idea.
Yeah, I could have clicked on the
Sounds
link.
like a governmental agency. But you don't want to mess with.
But what it does is it gives what they say is granular operation level version control.
Oh.
So, and the idea is that you could roll back just a single character. You don't have to roll back a whole file. You don't have to roll back an entire commit. You can get extremely close on what you actually want to change. And the reason for that is that agents and humans can have a single consistent view of the code base as it evolves. So I almost imagine this as you're working with Claude or you're working with, Codex. It's making changes and it's actually seeing the changes in real time at the same time as you are. So maybe it's even better at making updates to files.
Interesting.
Yeah,
I will say, I don't know if it's this problem that it's trying to address, but one thing I run into with agents all the time is it'll make some change and then I'll notice you did one tiny thing wrong. So I go in and tweak it, but I don't tell Claude that I tweaked it. And then Claude on its next run will get confused for a second and it'll say, oh, it looks like you updated that. And there's a mis-sync between me tweaking this file and Claude, which has been running for 3 or 4 minutes off doing its thing. And we get off just very slightly. And it's not the end of the world, but I wonder if this is trying to help address that, because the only way to really avoid that is with Git and staging and committing your changes at certain intervals but that's always going to be at the file level. And sometimes you do want to revert just part of a change. I don't know.
Yeah. I don't tend to work on the files directly if Claude's doing anything at any point.
Yeah.
It's like, I'll be over here working on Obsidian notes or whatever, Yeah.
Yeah, there's very few instances now where I'm editing something that Claude has worked on, although CSS, Claude still is terrible at CSS. So I will go in and just delete whole lines of stuff that Claude has added styling-wise.
The 2 times I hit it is CSS is the first one that came to mind. In fact, this just happened to me yesterday because I noticed the margin was different, and I was like, I'm not going to tell Claude to update the margin. It's right there. So I go to update the margin, but then Claude got confused because I had changed the spacing and I didn't tell it what I was doing.
Mm-hmm.
And then the other one is, since I work on documentation a lot, sometimes it spits out a chunk of docs and the heading, it's like, that looks AI sloppish. I don't like how you worded that. So I'll just go in and tweak the wording real quick, but then it's easier if I just tell Claude it the entire time, because then it knows what I'm doing and we stay on the same page. But
yeah, I do that to Claude too, and then it freaks out. It has to reread the whole file. Yeah, it's not happy.
Yeah,
you done.
Yeah, but it has to
I'm gonna go bring that all back. You're silly.
What the stupid human was messing with.
Exactly.
But Claude is just objectively bad at writing CSS, and it's not necessarily Claude's fault. I understand, Adam Argyle wrote a great article about why AI is just bad at CSS, and it's just because there is so much more room for error and cascades and all the things that make CSS powerful and great the way it is. AI agents just are terrible at understanding that and being able to debug in the browser, which is what so many of us end up doing, of just turning values off and seeing what changes, if anything, and then figuring out what we can add or delete to fix stuff. So it's just a shortcoming. It's not necessarily the agent's fault. It's just how CSS works.
Although if you're going to be doing that, like that toggling thing, you should use something like polypane, where, it might not be something that you can see in this particular breakpoint, but it might be something else that's happening over here. And,
right.
So you want to make sure that you're hitting all the breakpoints simultaneously. Do you actually know what CRDT stands for? Don't say it if you do.
I do not. I did not look it up.
Oh, shoot.
Change.
Change.
Well, we got to figure this out
recursive dilation of time kind of thing.
Right.
Okay. We should figure that out. I'm curious.
Yeah,
it's such a weird acronym.
We're going to figure this out now. We're
not leaving this topic until we know.
I'm even on how CRDT.
I think change is probably the first term, right? If we're going to do like a Wordle thing here on this, like kind of a sentenceal thing.
Okay, I got it.
Okay.
You ready for this?
Paige?
All right, TJ.
Oh, Paige, you find it? So you're not going to get this, and C is not even for change. So I'm just...
Okay. All right, fine. What is it?
It is conflict-free replicated data types.
Oh my God.
Yeah,
So
wouldn't have gotten that.
F, I guess.
Yeah, is it hyphenated?
Freedom for the F there.
Conflict-free is hyphenated.
Yeah.
Oh, conflict-free
That's how they did it.
replicated data types.
Yeah.
Now that is completely meaningless. That is just a word jumble. That is not. What is that?
They have a very detailed blog post about this that we will have to read later and come back to this because I'm not finding it useful to skim.
Yeah, this is like one of the ones that you point Claude at and you're like, what are they saying?
What is this?
I don't know. What does this mean? Explain it to me like I'm 5.
Yeah. But to just kind of wrap all of that up, maybe it's interesting. I don't know if Zed will catch on, if people will want to try it, or if they'll just continue with the cursors and the windsurfs and the VS Code with plugins of today.
See, personally, I don't think editor slowness is my bottleneck in an agentic world. It really isn't, because I'm just waiting for my agents to do stuff. And I mean, I don't want my editor to be slow, but VS Code doesn't feel slow. I mean, I'm positive Zed would be faster if I switched over and tried it out. But is it worth a small speed increase to change develop my workflows that I worked on for years and years at this point?
And probably go
not
with,
really.
I'm guessing, a fairly limited plugin ecosystem. Or maybe, maybe it's great ecosystem, but it's probably not like the VS Code plugin ecosystem in the TypeScript space,
Yeah.
Like, I'm sure a lot of Rust devs love this thing,
Yeah,
Mhm.
they do have extensions, so
Yeah,
it does
yeah.
exist. But I have to agree with you. I mean, I've got so many extensions of VS Code, so many settings exactly how I want. It's going to take a lot to convince me to leave that.
Me too.
I never have the agent work on my settings.
No,
Mm-mm.
same.
That sounds like an idea. Anyway, okay, moving on. So now we got some fun news. AI layoffs. No, I'm just kidding. I'm sorry. I shouldn't say that. AI layoffs. Let's talk about AI layoffs.
The AI layoffs will continue until morale improves, right?
Right.
Yeah.
Until there's
So-
no one left.
Yeah. So this week there was 2 more announcements, and I say more because it seems like we get these sort of news releases just about every week. But this week, Cloudflare let go of 1,100 people, and they put out this announcement that they sent out to all employees, where they say the way we work at Cloudflare is fundamentally changed. We are our own most demanding customer. Cloudflare's usage of AI has increased by more than 600% in the last 3 months. Employees across the company, from engineering to HR to finance to marketing, run thousands of AI agent sessions each day to get their work done. That means we need to be intentional in how we architect our company for the agentic AI era in order to supercharge the value we deliver to our customers and to honor our mission to help build a better internet for everyone, everywhere. And then
Boy, that is
they
a
use
whole
that to
lot
cut-
of nothing.
1,100
That is a whole
people.
lot of, we spent a lot of money on AI, and now we can no longer afford the
Yeah.
humans.
You.
Yeah.
Yes, you specifically. And then a few days later, Cisco announced that they were cutting 4,000 people, which is around 5% of their workforce. And their CEO told employees in a memo that, quote, the companies that will win in the AI era will be those with focus, urgency, and the discipline to continuously shift investments and make hard decisions. So yet more AI news. And I wanted to talk about it on the show, not this news specifically, because obviously we don't know the internals of Cloudflare or Cisco in any way, but just to talk a little bit about how you as a software developer, you the listener as a software developer or as a prospective software developer should interpret these stories, because it is a little bit scary when every time you open up LinkedIn or social media, you see that jobs in our sector are going away because of AI all the time. And I have some thoughts on this. Paige and Jack, do either of you want to kick this off on how you sort of handle the flood of these headlines coming over and over again?
Personally, I see it, one, there's what the media is interested in. Like, the media is interested in kind of doom and gloom and whatever is going to get clicks and things like that. And stories like, hey, we're laying off a bunch of people, are going to get a whole lot more than coverage than, hey, we messed up and now we're hiring a lot of people back, which actually turns out to be the case, right? If you look at actual studies and stuff, these companies are essentially regretting these decisions. So I do find it a little weird. It does seem like the regret has already kicked in other companies, and now, but I guess, yeah.
Well, I think it's almost exactly what you said, Jack, because listeners, Jack, maybe 2 or 3 weeks ago, shared an article with TJ and I that said exactly that people who were early, like Duolingo and some of the other companies that were really early to the AI layoff party, are now quietly rehiring. But I think that's the thing, is that it's quietly, like the company, Cisco, Meta, Cloudflare, insert company name here, that's doing layoffs in the name of AI. Maybe they haven't actually heard about these companies that are reversing course because they're doing so after proudly proclaiming from the rooftops that they fired all these people because of AI, and now they're suddenly can't do anything that they used to be able to do because there are no people to do it. So I think it may be just, like you said, a media problem. Like the reverse course is not being covered. People aren't aware of it. until they've already pulled the trigger and made their own set of headlines. So yeah, it's a really weird space to be in. And at the same time, it's so strange when I'm on LinkedIn because I feel like I'll see a post by somebody who's in a white collar job, but not necessarily coding. And they'll be like, I hate AI. I'm all about the process. It's the journey. It's not the end result. Leave me behind. Big companies, go on and do your AI, but leave me out of it. And then the very next thing is some person who's in AI engineering, and they're like, I use this to supercharge my workflow, and I'm doing X, Y, and Z amount of code every day, and I'm pushing features, and I'm doing this stuff. And it's just like there is such a weird dichotomy between people who absolutely hate it and everything it stands for, and then technical people like us who are using it every day so much and getting so much done for it. It's really a weird space to be in for me.
So to bring one data point into this, Indeed, the job posting site, has put out data in April. So this is like a month or two old, but that listings for software engineer jobs on Indeed are up this year, 11% compared to last year. I think we're too early to know the long-term repercussions of AI. No one really knows. But early signs seem to show that the number of software engineering jobs is not going down. Whether it's going up is debatable, but there's no sign that there's some massive decrease yet. If anything, they're going up. It's a little trickier for junior people. That's the one data point we have from, there was a big Harvard Business Review study showing that there is less hiring for junior roles, which I don't know how that's going to play out over time. Because I mean, obviously, eventually seniors don't come from nowhere. They have to start,
right?
have to start somewhere. So I feel like we'll figure that out at some point. But I kind of have a conspiracy theory around all of this that I thought I'd run by both of you.
Yeah, go for it.
So I think a certain chunk of these layoffs are basically excuses for these CEOs to make layoffs that they just wanted to do anyways.
Absolutely.
Because
100%.
I've been a part of a lot of layoff cycles in my career. I've had friends that have been part of it. I've heard lots of stories about this, and I know a couple of things. I know that companies like to do these layoff cycles because it just, at certain times, it makes their books look better. It makes their margins look better. And the other thing is that it is very hard to lay off people. Just morally, it's hard to get on the phone with somebody and say, you don't have a job anymore. Godspeed. Good luck. It is very difficult. So having a convenient excuse to do that sort of thing can be
mass. It's a lot easier when it's like, hey, go into this room and look for your name, and it's, if it's in red, adios, amigo. If it's in green,
yes,
you're staying around, kind of thing.
It makes the process so much easier because you can deal with all these people at once. And if you have something like this to throw, it's like it makes everybody feel better about the process, because if you're eliminated, you can go off and say, it wasn't because I wasn't needed. It was because AI destroyed my job. And that just makes it feels nicer as a thing to have to say to somebody. And I don't think that's all of this. I think there are a certain number of companies and CEOs that are truly drinking the AI Kool-Aid and truly do believe that AI is going to automate these jobs away. But I think that there's also a big chunk of this that is just providing a convenient excuse for layoffs that companies wanted to do anyways.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, I mean, we saw it during COVID when all these companies, especially the big tech companies, overhired. They just snapped up anybody that they could. And then 2022, 23 hit, and suddenly people were just being let go. And I think that's exactly what's happening again, but we've just couched it in a different reasoning than overhiring.
And I think my advice to people, especially if you're new to the field or you're in the job market, would be, I would not panic over these sort of news or headlines. But I would be proactive. You have to adapt your skills to what employers are actually looking for. And for better or worse, they're looking for AI skills. So that's part of why we talk about
skills, right? The people that use the agents, in coding, they aren't sitting around going like, oh, agents are terrible, blah, 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 blah. And understand how, like a decent agentic workflow. And I think that actually kind of goes into like my thoughts about this, which is I don't know actually if I'm more productive. And studies have shown that like real productivity is jump maybe like 10% with this. And that's because like it actually takes a while to write good code, right? It's very quick to let Claude, hey, here's a Jira, just fix it kind of thing, and it can just write whatever garbage, and it just it passes unit tests, and there you go, But actually, like, sit down, read through what it created, go, oh, not that, kind of thing. Like, actually architect the solution well. It takes time. It really does. And when this first started coming out, you got people that are just like, I'm doing blah, 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 every day. But the code, everything they're producing is crap. And so now we're starting to figure out, like, how do you actually develop in a sensible, reliable way with these tools? And then we're still adapting to that.
Yeah. That would be what I would encourage people. Don't just know the tools to know the tools, but know how to use the tools to actually get stuff done, more or less, is what people are looking for. That's what I hire people. That's the sort of thing that I'm looking for. So, and you just have to be, that's the one thing that's true in this industry that hasn't, AI has supercharged this, but I got my first developer advocate job because I knew jQuery really well, 10, 12 years ago or whatever. Ain't nobody looking for those jQuery skills nowadays, right? And so I've had to pivot several times. I went from jQuery to Angular, and then Angular to mobile to React, which is how I met Paige and Jack. And now I'm pivoting to AI, Claude, Codex, whatever else the next thing is. And so that sort of bit, even though AI is the biggest change out of all of those by a lot, it's still just, if you're in this world, get ready, because this is the sort of thing that you just have to be prepared for.
Yeah, it's become another skill to learn. It's not too dissimilar from learning to write JavaScript or learning to write Go or learning to write something. It's like, how do I give the agent the right context? How do I give it the right skills? How do I give it the right MCP connectors that it needs? How do I make it able to fend for itself or understand that TDD is the process that we want to go through when writing specs or plans or whatever. But learning how to do all of that effectively is another skill, even though it feels like a soft skill compared to learning the syntax or learning to write tests or learning this framework or whatever. But it is actually a skill. And I have seen my own skills for this improve over time as I've been using Claude codes as much as I do, and even Claude Desktop. Like, I figured out how to give it the right amount of information so that it can make me something that is useful and that I can review or turn into a slide deck or do whatever I need to do with in the end. But it is a skill.
It is a skill. And change is the only constant. And I gotta say, change is actually, to me, accelerating. Like, every time I turn around and Claude Code updates, there's yet another thing that it can do that I actually have to pay attention to. Like, I just noticed yesterday that now Claude Code has this /goal thing. And you can basically give
I've seen this.
a goal, and then it will go and iterate until it hits that goal, that kind of thing,
Interesting.
Yeah. Right, there you go.
But here's the thing. You're doing the right thing by listening to this podcast.
Yeah, there you go.
Like,
exactly.
To be honest with you, we use this podcast as a way of keeping tabs on all of this new stuff as well. Every week we search through the news, we learn something new, and then we talk about it here and bring it to you. And so together we can all try to to make sense of this,
on top.
Whatever new world we're now living in.
Like and subscribe.
Yeah.
But kind of going along these lines, one thing that it's doing is, if you don't look at the code, you can make it very insecure. So let's talk about like our third topic here, which is we had some new vulnerabilities this week. Well, not really. Okay, in the case of TanStack, it was actually a CI/CD pipeline issue. So our CI/CD pipeline is public, as everything that we do is. And my guess is that someone pointed Claude at it or whatever and looked for vulnerabilities because we have a very popular package. And if they can get their malware into our packages, then great. We have TanStack has a very solid process and had a very solid process before this incident where, like, if I want to go and get something out into production, I've got to PR it. That PR has got to be reviewed. Once that PR lands, we still actually don't release. There's another step, a change set step that goes. We have another gate that we have before we release something. So it's a huge deal, huge process. But someone is able to essentially circumvent that by exploiting a kind of a known vulnerability at the GitHub level, and that allowed them to share our cache and then share our tokens for pushing. And they were able to push out two releases of a bunch of packages, I think 24 in total. And within a couple minutes, it was flagged. And then within 30 minutes, we fixed it and they were gone. So there's like very, very specific releases of a 1 day and 30 minutes that if you're on those, that's bad. But the malware was then going to go and exfiltrate all of your secrets, and that's not great.
Yeah. And like we talked about, I think maybe last week or the week before, if you were using something like PNPM or another package manager where you had set the minimum release age for downloading packages to even at this point a day, you would have, or a week, you would have completely missed it, would have been fine. Just PNPM now by default has that set. Please just use these things. They will save you from getting hacked by this kind of thing.
Yeah, a day would have been fine in this case. Yeah.
I think at this point, it's beyond a recommendation. I think at this point, if you're not doing it, you need to pull over in your car. You need to you need to look up whatever you're using, because you can do this in NPM as well. It's not the default in NPM, but there is config where you can set it so NPM won't install anything that's new within a day or a week or whatever. I'd say a day at a minimum would protect you against almost all of the vulnerabilities that we've talked about on this show. So either set that config in NPM or use PNPM. If you're on PNPM 11, you get that by default. Or if you're using one of the other package managers that it's out there, just do a quick search, because if you were unlucky enough to get one of these in that window, these things are quite bad. The payloads behind them, they basically they get root access to your machine. They're going to look for any sort of anything that they can find to compromise on your machine, any tokens, whatever they can find. And this one also had a particularly malicious one where it would, if you tried to revoke the token that it had access to, it would rm-rf your home directory at some point as well, built into this. So it's just, you don't want to get infected with this. And TanStack's the latest one to hit, but it's not because of it's just because at this point, people, like Jack said, people can just go out there looking for any sort of minute things they can find. They're just looking for packages that are widely distributed, and they're going to use whatever social engineering, exploiting any minor vulnerability they can find. It's all supercharged because they can just have AI look for this, and AI doesn't get tired, and AI can find anything. And so the best answer we have for now is just your package manager needs to help protect you against this, because this is going to happen to other packages. It's a guarantee at this point.
Hey, before we move on to the Next.js vulnerability, I don't know if it got root access. Like, I wouldn't think of that. Was there something specific that said it got root?
I don't know if it had root access, but the post-install script did look for tokens on your own machine.
Right,
so,
yeah, for sure. It would exfiltrate stuff off of your machine, but I don't know, I don't think it got root. So, yeah, because nothing you run when you're developing should have root.
Yeah, it did, though, have a dead man switch, as they termed it, where it would RMRF if it saw
your
that
home.
you had... Yeah, if you had switched your GitHub tokens. So it's not even just that they're trying to steal credentials and infect other packages and push out more malware. Yeah, they're just trying to destroy your machine completely.
That's funny because, not funny. That is particularly mean, because RMRF on your home will actually work and will actually be pretty devastating to really practical work in your computer, where RMRF on / actually, it's a weird thing. It doesn't actually take out your machine. That's a whole different story. Anyway,
I don't think I should have used, you're correct though, I don't think I should have used the word root, because that means something very specific.
Yeah.
But But in general, it gives you a level of access you don't want
No.
anyone
having. So
Do itself on your
Yeah.
behalf, and whatever you have access to, it's got access to. All right. Now, Next.js had a big vulnerability this week as well. This one, amazingly, not related to RSCs. Dun, dun, dun.
crazy.
This was a unique vulnerability for Next.js, and it's around how they handled WebSockets. And if you're asking yourself, like, whoa, wait a second, hold on, Next.js doesn't actually handle WebSockets. Well, okay, it does actually do WebSockets in dev mode for HMR, but that's not actually this. The other thing it does with WebSockets is it actually proxies WebSockets so that if you have WebSocket code somewhere in your app, it won't essentially bulk on it. And that proxying code was enough to give attackers on a single payload, again, access to everything on your server. Well, I mean, everything that user has access to on your server, which of course would be all your environment variables and all of your connections. And it's a massive vulnerability. So you really, really want to make sure that you are up to date on Next.js.
Fun.
Again, I think it's an agentic world, and now the agentic world is being used for black hat hacking, which, I mean, I'm sure we could have predicted, and we did predict, and yeah.
The quote from Spider-Man just rings truer and truer. With great power comes great responsibility.
So true. So true. All right. So do we have any fire starters this week?
We got lightning news and fire starters.
Oh,
so
yeah. Let's do lightning news.
So I got one quick one. Tailwind 4.3 is out, and there's a handful of new things in there. There's only one I wanted to talk about on the show, is that they added first-party utilities for the CSS scrollbar APIs. And so they say, so you can finally do the boring but useful scrollbar stuff without opening a second tab and remembering which browser supports what, which personally, I've always avoided doing things with scroll bars, at least since back in the 90s when I did stuff on GeoCities. I would totally mess with a scroll bar back then. But ever since then, I just don't trust anything. I just leave it alone because anything I try to do completely fails. But Tailwind is trying to make it more accessible. So there's a bunch of class names you can use for scroll bar width, gutter, colors, and you can do it all through class names. So I am pretty excited to try this because I do think you can now do some pretty tasteful things with scroll bars. I remember back in the day, people did some very gaudy things with their scroll bars, and I don't think we want to encourage that. But I've seen some cool things, just changing the color of a scroll bar to match your branding. I think you could do some pretty interesting stuff. So I'm definitely going to try this out.
You know, just listen to Ian Malcolm. You know, just because you could doesn't mean you should.
Yeah.
Right? Just, like, if you don't mess with it, don't need to, don't mess with it. It's good.
But there are certain situations where it really just looks super weird to see it not matching the whole rest of your site. So if it's easier to just kind of make it blend in and just be there, sure.
We have, for example, at Blues, we have a terminal that lives within the browser. And in that scenario, having a custom scroll bar it's a little more obvious that there's a scroll bar there and to fit the branding of the terminal. And when this was first implemented years ago, there's just some really janky React plugin that's in there that does this that I've never loved. And maybe now with CSS APIs and Tailwind and stuff, we could just get away from using some really hacky JavaScript to implement that.
I really need to add on to my rules for Cursor and Claude that once it's done writing Tailwind code, it needs to run the Tailwind lint and fix up all of it because it's so trained on pre-4 stuff. And every time I look at Tailwind code that's come out of Claude, it's all just lint error, lint error, lint error, lint error, lint error. And I'm just like, okay, fine. And just, fix all the lint errors, every time.
Oh, that's a good one. I'm actually in the process of writing up a spike at work to upgrade us from Tailwind 3 to Tailwind 4. So that's good, good firsthand knowledge of things to keep in mind.
Yes. All the little the abbreviations and stuff, they all show up under lint now, and it's all like, oh, God. Okay, I get it. All right, well, let's check out some fire starters. What we got for this week?
We get to hear the cool jingle, at least.
Yeah.
The Chrome and Edge teams have a new HTML element, which you always got to get excited when we get a new one of those.
Right, there's only like 1,000 of them. Now there's 1,001.
The new one is the install element, and this is a way of installing basically installing a PWA. So if you want like a trusted way, at least their idea, what they're proposing is that it's a trusted way that looks consistent as a way of installing a web app. Because today, there's no real great way, and users don't really trust, at least I know I wouldn't trust, if I'm on some website and it says, hey, you can install this, and there's an install button, I'm not trusting that install button at all, whether it's on desktop or mobile or whatever. So the thought is, if you had a standard way that everybody would know, like, oh, this is actually a browser element that's not going to have some crappy user JavaScript associated with it, that I could trust to install a web app. This is an element that is going to do that. So it's just install in HTML. If it's for your own page, that's all you need. You just put install.
Seriously, just install /done.
Yes,
wow.
That's it. It's just install. You can also, though, give it a URL. So I think their intent behind this is if we want, say, like marketplaces of these are some cool web apps that you can install, you could use this to build a collection of them and then just use the install URL attribute that points at another application. And then if the user clicks that, they can install the app from a different domain. And that's all there is to it. It is live technically, but to actually try it out, like Chrome has this thing where you have to reach out to them, or there's some process behind it. So it's not something you can actually use in production quite yet. But this is their thought of making web app installs a little bit easier and hopefully more trusted.
Did I read that it's also JavaScript free?
It is, yes.
I guess your example of having like a page of installable things would answer my question, which is this seems like more like a meta tag to me. But it should just be like meta tag, whatever.
Well, the meta tag is how you tell it. It's how you tell the browser that you have a manifest file and that the app is installable. So all different browsers have had different things. Like Chrome at times is suggested that sometimes it'll pop up like, hey, did you know you can install this? And then there's some JavaScript APIs around that. But there have been ways where you could do this sort of thing yourself, because there are JavaScript APIs for prompting the user to install your app. But the problem is users just don't trust stuff. Like the web has been ruined by shady installation prompts since the night. That's like one of the web's original sins is all this stuff. So nobody trusts it. And I don't know, it's probably going to be some effort to get people to trust these new buttons, to recognize them and to realize that they can actually trust and use them. But I think it's at least a smart idea. I don't know whether this will catch on, but we'll just have to see.
You could have just stopped if the web had been ruined, but okay.
Yeah.
I would really like to know what the stats are for people using PWAs in real life, because I know we talk about them and we're adding all these things to support them, but who is actually using them?
Adam Argyle is. I mean, yeah, I was talking to him, and he's got a bunch of like home apps that he's got for doing, hosted on his home machines, which, he's doing the thing that a lot of folks are, which is like, kind of moving everything to like local. And he's got some PWAs and he installs them on his phone. Yeah. I think it's cool.
Okay.
Yeah.
I definitely think he is an edge case, though, just knowing him. And
Adam Argyle, edge case. No way.
Yeah, exactly.
That's crazy.
What non-technical people are using PWAs?
Yeah.
I don't know, because even I've installed several of them just to test things out, because I'm always curious how they work, because I'm fascinated by the web and the browser interaction, but then I don't find myself actually using them, sadly.
Yeah, you just open the browser and go back to that site.
Yeah.
Which is funny, because I remember many podcasts where you're talking about like Apple and Apple's disdain for
Yep.
PWAs
Yep.
and all the legal stuff around it. And you're like,
And
we
Europe.
should fight the fire. We should fight the man. Get the PWA access. Go
Well,
on.
it's because it's the
I don't
conflict. Because
use them, but somebody
morally,
does.
morally, I do
principle.
believe
The
in
principle of the
that. Is
thing. Exactly.
I do believe in the principle. I do believe in the morals of it. But then turns out I just don't. I don't actually use it. That's what's like. The web apps are usually not that great, unfortunately. That the more engineering effort just for these, especially for the biggest of the big apps, more engineering effort goes into their native apps than to make their web apps usable. And the web as a platform is never going to be as fast as a native application. It's fighting at a disadvantage. You're going through a browser rather than going directly to the metal. So if you're engineering the best of the best, and I don't use that many apps, so the ones I use, usually I want to be as fast and as good as possible. And
Yeah, if you have something that is meant to be used on a tablet or a phone or something besides a desktop, you probably better invest in an actual app, not a really good UI and that feels nice on smaller screens if it's really that big of a revenue driver for you.
yeah, I think it's only for I don't know. Yes.
And on that note, let's talk about what's making us happy this week.
All right.
TJ, what's making you happy this week?
ChiliPad is making me happy this week. So I think I briefly talked when we were complaining about subscription costs on anything. I talked a little bit about my research into basically water-cooled beds and the crazy world that is. So I ended up making a decision and buying ChiliPad, which is it's a mattress cooling system. And the reason I picked that one specifically is that they do not actually have subscriptions. So it's just, it's Wi-Fi based. You don't need to sign up to anything recurring to use the thing. Whereas it's like 8 Sleep Pod is the biggest name in this space.
Everybody, yeah. 8
Which
Sleep.
Expensive.
They're very expensive. And they have a subscription. But people do have good things to say about that.
Oh,
so
converts.
maybe eventually we want to try that out. But the nice thing about ChiliPad is it was less expensive. We could get it for just one side of the bed, it was a Mother's Day present for my wife. So she's getting incredibly hot at night and summer's coming up. So that was the idea behind it. And it's kind of a cool system. I mean, really all it is there's nothing too fancy or technical behind it. Essentially, you're putting a pad on the bed, you're running water through it, and then you have an element that can heat or cool the water. That's really all the thing does.
And there's a reservoir, right? Reservoir water, and you put a little conditioner in it to make sure it doesn't get janky.
It's exactly that. Yep.
Yeah.
You fill a little tank up, you put in you have to use distilled water, you put in some stuff to treat the water. It runs through the system constantly, and then it has an app where you can configure what hours you want it to run. So you can either turn it on and off manually, or you can get crazy and set up schedules. You can have it come on at certain times. You can have it change temperatures at certain times of the night. And that's one thing. That's how 8 Sleep justifies their subscription, is what they claim is that they're monitoring. They have sensors built into their cover.
Oh, yeah, it's all AI.
And they're monitoring your health signals and adjusting that temperature on the fly to try to optimize your sleep. And how true that is, I don't know. Like I said, but early signs from ChiliPad is that it's really the only thing I wanted to do is have something that cools down the bed for hot nights. And it seems to do that, and it seems to work. And so it seemed like a nice compromise between something that can actually do that, because there's systems that are like basically fans that port under the bed.
Oh, I've seen that too. Yeah.
There's fancy mattresses that are supposed to be cooler. So this world it's crazy how much goes into this, and this seemed like the best compromise. And so far, I've been pretty happy with it. It's easy to set up, easy to start up, which is all good.
Well, ideally, you're spending a third of your day on whatever this contraption is, right? So it's kind of important, right?
Is it how much difference is there between the bed that has the ChiliPad on it versus the regular bed? Is it like a water bed, like you're up there just like sloshing around or side to side?
It's surprisingly thin, but you do feel it. And that's supposedly one of the differences between this and the 8 Sleep, because the 8 Sleep one, you put on something that's a little more oomphy on your mattress, so you don't necessarily feel it. Whereas with the Chili Pad, you do feel a little bit of the water going through it, but it's not full waterbed. It's not affecting the integrity of the mattress itself, because it's a very thin layer. So you're still on a stable surface, but you do feel the water moving, and it's weird, but it can also be somewhat relaxing as well. I don't know. It doesn't bother me, but you do feel it a little bit.
Okay, interesting. I'll have to look into that because my husband is a hot sleeper. So he's always, I want the blanket up, he wants the blanket off. So it's a struggle at night sometimes.
And you can get,
here's a simple solution: 2 blankets.
I know.
This is what they do in Europe, and we've been doing this for years. So you get I've got my summer duvet, she's got her winter duvet. The dog kind of figures out a way to manage himself between these two things. Yeah.
There's also I Love Lucy, separate bedrooms, separate beds sort of thing too is a thing some people do. So
I guess. Yeah.
I know. No, not ready to commit to that.
Paige, what you got? What's making you happy?
All right. So I am excited for next weekend, or not this coming weekend, but like a week from now. My husband and I are going to be doing a Porsche driving track experience for our 10th anniversary. So
that's awesome.
Yeah, not only have we made it 10 years of happily married bliss, which has gone by much quicker, I will be completely honest, it's just like a blink of an eye, but we're also going to do this. So I'm excited to go learn how to drive, regular sized cars, not go-karts, fast around a track, and hopefully get better at it. And yeah, this might start another really expensive hobby, depending on how well it goes.
Yeah, the very accessible hobby of driving Porsches around a racetrack.
Yeah.
It sounds
no big investment for that.
This sounds really fun,
great,
though.
It gives you the ability to dabble in it. I think that's fantastic.
Yeah, I'm very curious to hear the report, because I have questions about specifics, the logistics of how they handle, how fast do you actually go, what did you just get to do a few laps, how all that works. So we're definitely going to need a report back after you do this.
Yeah, well, the high level, even before I've been, is that you can do either a 1-day or a 2-day, and we're doing the 2-day. And the reason that we're doing that is that our friend, who was a Porsche driving instructor in the past, said that really on day 1, you're just getting hit with information. So by day 2, you've had a chance to sleep on it and kind of try and digest everything, and then you can start to apply it in the second day of practice. But yeah, as far as I understand, it's like a full day in the classroom and then in the car, and you just driving around the track with instructors giving you tips and teaching you, and yeah, it should be a lot of fun. This is the introductory course, and there are of course many levels if you pass that and want to keep going.
Do you know if it's an oval track or a full on F1 style twists and turns track? Or
so this is the Barber racetrack in Birmingham, Alabama. So it is a full racetrack. But they also have they have the same kind of school at Laguna Seca. If you're out in California and you want to do it there, they have 3 or 4 different tracks around the US that they do these schools at. And I think that they're all Formula One type racetracks.
Oh, cool. Nice.
Mm-hmm.
Very cool.
I don't think I'd want to be an instructor at one of these schools. That doesn't. I would like to be. I could see wanting to be the person driving the car. That sounds pretty fun. But to just get randos coming in and
right,
you're just in there with them. That does not seem fun.
I'm sure you have a shutdown button. I'm sure that
I would have to assume so.
Fire extinguishers all over the place. And, in the morning, you just make sure that, you really, really, really kiss your love goodbye, every day. If I don't get back.
These are the sort of logistics questions I have. So that's why we need to hear back.
Well, our friend's a ex-Porsche instructor. I'm sure he knows.
Yeah.
He's still alive. He's fine.
He's got gray hair for days, but he's still alive. All right. What's making me happy this week is my Porch Planets project. I have printed out a bunch of, well, all 10, I mean, Pluto. I'm still counting Pluto planets, and built a full-on like wiring harness and LED lighting system. And I just finally finished my Saturn build with the rings, and it looks amazing. So this weekend is when I mount it to the deck, and then start integrating it with the software that would allow me to do like astrology readings with lit planets and stuff, and astronomy stuff where it's like, show me the planets that are in tonight's night sky kind of thing. So it's been a very educational experience in 15 different skills, including astronomy, astrology, wiring, soldering, 3D printing at scale, blah, 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 blah. So it's been amazing.
Oh man, I cannot wait to see photos of this. This sounds so
It's
cool.
It's going to be a thing. Yeah. And the only problem that I have is it's getting to the point in Oregon where like it actually doesn't get dark until like 9:30 at night. So, it's a little late for me, but yeah. We're still really excited about it.
And this is a pro Pluto podcast. Pluto was a planet when I was in elementary school,
That's
so
right.
it will always be a planet to me, and I will not hear otherwise.
It's a cool planet,
Yeah, it's got a great name. Yeah. I mean, why not?
Exactly. And like, hey, way better than Neptune. Neptune's just a ball.
Yeah.
Yeah. All right. This has been a really fun episode. Yeah. And of course, if you want to meet up with us, go to our Discord server, jump onto the Front End Fire channel in there, just say hello. You get to see, videos of Porch Planets and hopefully Porch Driving School, and it maybe even some links to a chili pad mattress system. We'll see you next week.
I got to look if there's referral codes. Maybe I can move some mattresses.
Yeah.
There you
go.
Affiliate marketing.
Yeah, I should have done that with our twinkly Christmas lights, right? We get into merchandising here.
Yeah.
Affiliates.
I think my wife, if your wife likes it, let me know, and I'll tell my wife that your wife likes it, because
I'll
a
report
thing.
Back. I'm gonna get more of a sample size, right? We've been doing it for a couple days, so I'll check back in after a bit and let you know. Once we get these like hot summer nights, right? I think that's the real test case.
I will say, like, 8 Sleep folks are like, it's the new CrossFit. They are a cult. Once they get into it, it's all like, have you tried 8 Sleep? I'm like, dude, we were talking about like, generative UI. Yes, but I want to talk about something important. 8 Sleep.
Yeah. And I mean, chili pad people, 8 Sleep people, if you're listening, reach out. I'm not, I can help move some units here. We got a decent listenership, so.
Well, when it comes to 8 Sleep, moving a unit is like a big deal.
Oh, it's a big deal.
Cheap, boy.
Yeah, that's a commission.
Yeah.
All right, everybody, we got way off topic. Thanks for listening.
See you next week.
See you then.